stock very much. Because volume gives me an opportunity to get in and out. I think volume overall is highly overstated, especially these days. It wasn't so much a decade ago or even earlier, but now, because of computerized trading, volume brings in computerized volume. And that's kind of empty volume. You can't really think of that. They wouldn't be coming if the stock wasn't having some volume to start with. So volume is kind of a, like I said, it doesn't mean too much to me. I don't put much stock into it. Although, when volume does explode in certain situations, and it trades 40 times as usual, or 50 times, or 100 times, and it does that for several days, my train of thought right away is, well, you know, who the hell wants to buy this thing? It's run for 2 days in a row. And who's left to buy the stupidity? So I know day 3, I'm coming. It's just a question of what price I'm coming. Now, the other thing is to remember, it's not every single gap off of the garbage stock is a fake. The trade, the setup, everything is different, okay? You have to pick the right ones. You have to pick the ones that make the most sense. And to basically put that in perspective, I would say the setup has to fit like a glove. You know, the stupidity that seems obvious to you as a short trader, the stupidity of the longs, has to really stand out like a sore thumb. If it doesn't, pass. If you're unsure, pass. There's always another setup tomorrow, or later that day, or the following day. Don't get yourself in trouble. Only trade the ones that offer the best opportunity, the highest win rate. You stick to those, you give yourself the best chance to make money, significant money. You make significant money, that gives you confidence. That gives you confidence to follow that confidence with more confidence on the next trade. And so on and so on and so on. And then, after a while, you'll start seeing the light. You know, now you start believing in yourself. You're no longer following people in chat rooms or thinking and, you know, well, what's this guy doing? Oh, well, let me see. I've got to follow him. Oh, he's good. Who cares? You got to think for yourself, okay? Build your trading business around your thoughts, not following somebody else. And the more success you have, the more confidence you will have in yourself. The other thing, like I said, I said this earlier, is I rate the setups mentally, okay? Some will be, and when I say rate, let's say 1 to 10, and 1 is something that is slightly above advantageous. You know, maybe 50, 55%, 2, maybe 60%, 3, maybe 65, and so on and so on. And when I get to 8, 9, and 10, those are well in the 90s, 90 or higher. And based on my overall rating, based on my experience, I know the type of size that's appropriate for this setup, at least for me. Now, back to the entry points. It's very important to understand, and to some degree Dan touched upon this point a little earlier. It's not a question of whether you're right at the close of the day, at 4 p.m. close on a particular short trade. The only thing that matters is whether you are right at the close of your trade. Okay? So what I mean by that is, right at the open, funky things happen. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say you're holding a stock, let's say you bought at 10, and all of a sudden it's gapping up to 13. Now, what is your natural reaction? Now, let's say the news is fabulous. Okay, great news. But it came out early in the market at 7 a.m., and all this time it's trading way up there. have to think, okay, so who owned the stock before today? And how much profit taking are they going to do? And there are many situations where I will trade larger cap stocks, especially, let's say, biotech, that are gapping up very significantly. Okay, 20 or 30 points, but I know for a fact that this is great news. There's no doubt about it in my mind. But I also think, at least at this point in the day, it is up too much. And immediately after the open, or maybe shortly beforehand, profit taking will come in. It's a natural reaction. Ring the register, right? So if I can short that stock with a reasonable stop point, and maybe even add a little bit higher in the first 30 minutes of trading, I give myself a good chance to take advantage of a quick pullback right after the open on profit taking. I'm out, and then after that, oftentimes the stock will settle out, and oftentimes even go higher the rest of the day. But I don't care. I take advantage of that opportunity. You know, not all the time. It has to be very specific. You have to be very selective on these type of scenarios. Like I said, not every gap up is favorable. So you have to be highly selective. Now, there are two schools of thought regarding entry points. Okay? From my point of view, at least. In 1998, when I started out trading, my school of thought was the later. And what I mean by that is, I did not short on the way up. I see enormous astronomical runs that would have buried many short traders, including myself. So I said, you know what? I wait until momentum shifts, until the stock clearly shows me momentum done and gravity's taking hold. You wait until later in the morning, until you start seeing some relative weakness. Now, I don't know how many of you follow me on Twitter and have read my article on relative strength, relative weakness. If you haven't, make sure you do. Make sure you check it out, because it speaks very clearly, because that is probably the most important thing, that once I get past 10 o'clock, that's what triggers what I do the rest of the day with each particular stock. It's the relative strength and the relative weakness of that stock compared to the overall market, compared to its sector, compared to its trading range, compared to wrap on the day. And these are all crucial things. So, like I said, first train of thought is we short after this relative weakness. Okay? After a very sizable boom, there's plenty of downside, and once it starts showing relative weakness, you attack. That was my playbook in 1998, 99, 2000. Then, when the bull market ended in 2000, in April of 2000, I started adjusting my playbook. As the market was coming down hard, I said, okay, beautiful. We need to make some adjustment. So I started adding on the way up. Now, adding is a very dangerous game. And you need to have very, very, very specific rules. Rule number one, at least for me, I never add on long trades to losers. Forget that. Okay, it is so rare. Okay, it's a stupid strategy. It's just going to get you in trouble. The stocks fall for a reason. Generally, most of the time they fall for a very specific reason, and oftentimes it is very unclear if the stock will have any life in the near term and might fall significantly lower. Well, stocks on the short side oftentimes rise for no reason whatsoever, stupidity. So therefore, my approach started changing in the year 2000 after the bull market ended. I started changing my playbook to doing both. I started shorting pre-market, things that made no sense, and I would add in time increments. instead of price increments, as I said, or maybe both. And what I mean by that, let's say something made no sense to me at 7:30. The size of the move was enormous. So I shorted some shares. I said, okay, now I'm going to wait an hour, as an example. And at 8:30, I'll add some more shares. At 9:15, a few more shares. 9:45, a few more. At 10 o'clock, my full position. Okay? Or a combination of price and time. So I started adopting that. And one thing that during that year I started noticing, and it's become a staple of my trading all these years, is I will add, if something makes no sense to me, and it's ideal to short that day, I will be adding on the way up. Because if I started shorting, I know it's a good entry. Even if it turns out it wasn't in the end. At least I'll feel good about it. I will continue adding in time and price up until 10 o'clock. Pre-market and that first 30 minutes of trading, that is your chaser amateur hour. That time frame is the biggest difference between reality and stupidity. That is an opportunity to attack and punish stupidity. And that is what I do during that time frame. Now, from 10 to 11, it becomes a totally different story. 10 to 11, reality means fiction. Stock, presumably, assuming I'm right, supposed to pull back and supposed to start a intraday consolidation at a lower level, which later in the day will lead to a lower level. I know what to expect. I know the game plan. I've seen this movie before. I know the ending. So it has to follow a certain time frame of what the setup is supposed to do. Now, we get to someplace near 11, let's say quarter to 11, 11 o'clock, 11:15 at the latest. If the stock is trading near the high of the day, I'm not going to fight it. I punt. I don't care. You know, if it's showing that much strength, high of the day at 11 o'clock, I'm gone. Goodbye. I can always come back to it that afternoon or tomorrow morning. I never, ever, ever, I don't want to say ever, but there's always exceptions, but 99% of the time, I do not fight strength after 11 a.m. That is not a time you ever want to short if a stock is trading higher than the day, with one exception. And that exception, if there's an absolute parabolic move on continuous momentum, well, it's just so absurd, and you're just looking for a quick, half a point or 75 cents or $1, whatever the hell it is you're looking for, I might try that type of a situation for a quick fade. But other than that, I will not fight strength. Because in intraday trading, strength brings more buyers and brings more strength. Weakness brings down sellers and brings down more weakness. That's the concept you need to understand. 11 o'clock, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Bells are going off in my head. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Get out, get out. Get out while you can. Move on. The days when I'm wrong, which actually doesn't happen that often on great setups, very rarely. And even if I lose money, I don't have a problem losing money in those setups. It's not a problem. It was perfect. I thought it was a great setup. I loved it. I lost money, 40, 50, whatever, 1,000, whatever the hell it is, it doesn't matter. But you know what? The next morning, when now it's day 4, and the stock is even higher, I don't slow down. I bring even more army. And I smack it even harder. Because I know it's just a question of timing until it collapses. And when it does, it's a beautiful thing. So there's always tomorrow. There's always a time when you have to say, I'm wrong, at least today. You know, tomorrow's another day. Now, one of the concepts that I try to explain on relative strength and weakness on Twitter, it's kind of difficult to explain in words necessarily, or at least on Twitter, is the concept of relative strength and relative weakness of a stock compared to its intraday trading range. What I mean by that is from the low to the high of the day. So let's take an example. Let's say we have a $4 stock that is up 2 points pre-market. Right after 9:30, it rips to 7, and the low stays at 6, and now it's trading between 6 and 7. Okay? Now, whether you took a position already or you didn't take a position, it kind of doesn't matter for this discussion. But the point is now is this concept of relative strength, relative weakness compared to its intraday range comes into play after 10:30 in the morning, at least for me. If the stock is trading above, in percentage terms, the top 25 percentile of its intraday trading range, I'm on alert that I'm wrong on the short side. If it breaks that high, I got to get out. Stock that is trading 50 to 75 percentile, that's a situation I'm watching, but I'm not getting involved with unless I already necessarily have a position. So those are the type of situations you can consider on the long side, especially the 25 percentile. Once a stock breaks 50% level of its intraday trading range, from that point on the rest of the day, under no conditions do you have any business trading that stock on the long side. You should never even think of such a thought. Because once it breaks below 50%, it's generally done. It's highly rare for it to keep going higher. You're only going to get yourself in trouble. And especially if it falls into the lower 25 percentile range of the day, I mean, you got to be out of your mind to be playing on the long side. So the point of this, if I'm playing the short side here, at 10:30 to 11, I want to see my setup below that 50% threshold. That gives me all the confidence in the world that that stock is heading the rest of the day because it's already had that enormous 1, 2, 3 day rise, and now it's waiting for a retrace. I mean, that's a key point here. Now, it's important to understand how retraces work. And this is also a very key concept of my trading, is the easy money versus hard money. And there's a very, very huge distinction here. Retraces, let's say something moves 6 points over a 2-day period, 3-day period. 1/3 of that, or something close to that amount, in my opinion, is the easy retrace. Stock, especially the garbage stock, they are highly, highly likely to make that move lower and give up very easily, without too much of a fight, 1/3 of those gains that are just occurred in 3 days. That's the money I'm looking for. Most likely it's heading below that, even further in days to come. I don't care. Let somebody like Craig fight for that. He specializes in swing trading, the short side. He will absolutely hammer that stock, and he will work for that extra hard money, and he will get highly rewarded. But my focus is intraday trading. I want that easy money. I take that easy money, you know what I do with it? I go over here, on the sidelines, I put my feet on the table, and I start observing closely for the next setup. Let somebody else fight for the hard money. That's my whole concept. Now, the biggest issue with that philosophy, I cannot begin to tell you how much deadwood in profits I incur because of this. For those that don't know what deadwood means, it means money you left on the table on a profitable trade that would have been even much more profitable. But the thing is my whole trading, intraday trading philosophy is based on deadwood. And I know it's coming. Almost on every trade there's profitable money. But that's fine, because I am looking for the easy money. For that nice, easy retrace, that's a sizable move, where there is no stress. I'm looking for stress-free setups. Stress-free trading. The reason why I look for that? Because I'm trading size. You know, why do I need to try to get the whole thing to retrace? Instead, I'll just double my size or triple my size even more if I know it's coming down for my easy money, and I'll just take it. Okay. So the point is, like, I have my two friends over here. They will tell you they have known me for 15 years. Deadwood is just enormously huge part of my trading. It's always there. I cannot escape it no matter what. My entries are golden, but one of my friends actually says, you know what? A person can become a millionaire trading your deadwood alone. And it's true. I leave a ton of money on the table, but I don't care. There's a ton of money to be made in fast money, and that's what I'm looking for. Now, getting back to my train of thought on the relative strength, relative weakness of that intraday trading rate. This is a very important concept, at least to me. For example, let's say, just to give you a rough understanding how it might work. Let's say a stock is trading late morning at the lower end of its trading range and then lower 25 percentile. That's it? That's all I got.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I got you. Anyway, so in that case, I might have either a mental stop or a physical stop at a level that is just above the 50% intraday line of intraday trading range. This gives me an understanding if there is a crossover, it shouldn't occur. But if it does, I want to be out. Or if I'm watching a stock very closely to enter, and if it breaks that 50 percentile range on, there's reasonable volume, as long as it's not a thin stock, that could be just a head fake, I come attacking on the short side for a trade. These are just some of the ways that I try to use that to my advantage. And I hope I made that somewhat clear. It's not, like I said, it's not necessarily an easy concept to explain without very specific illustrations. Anyway, since they're telling me that I'm out of time, I'm going to take the last few minutes to open it up for questions. By the way, if your question doesn't get called now, please see me on the break or in the evening or tomorrow, and I'll be more than happy to answer any and all of them. Anyway, any questions?
What percentage do you trade short versus...
Do me a favor, you got to speak up. I have a little hard time hearing.
What percentage do you trade short and long?
I would say 85% of my volume is on the short side. At times it can be as high as 90, but I would say 85 is a pretty good number. The bottom line is, I look at long and short in a very different light. In my opinion, long side is casino gambling, while short side is absolute money. There are so many things that can go wrong on the long side. Downgrades, market collapses, all of a sudden you got a big seller coming in, hedge fund selling, whatever, insider selling. While on the short side, if I'm in, it's already at a point where it is just advantageous to short. So what else can happen? Everything's already happened. The only thing they can do is they can squeeze me a little bit more. And the difference also is the long side is very difficult to find on the long side something that I am very, very comfortable and confident in and have extreme confidence to trade in size. But on the short side, I find those situations almost every single day where I have extreme confidence, and because of that confidence, I am able to attack in size. That's a very, very important difference. Anyway, any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I just parked earlier. What did you say the largest brush stuff you traded was?
The largest what?
Brush stuffs. What was the largest stuff you traded?
Brush stuff.
Raw size.
Oh, raw size. It was basically 4Ds. That was, sometimes E, but usually 4Ds. That was it. There was actually numerous ways to describe the people that I know, what the type of size I trade. But I thought it was numerous. Anyway, what's your question?
No problem. Like every morning there's like too many setups, like 5, 6, 7 stuff.
Okay.
I didn't measure which one that you're gonna really focus on because I trade all of them.
I never try to trade all of them. I try to pick out the very best ones, the news what seems the most absurd, and the stocks have already moved the most that offer the most amount of retrace, and also the amount of volume that's already in the stock that's going to give me an opportunity to trade the size that I want to trade. That'll give me the best chance. So not only do I look at the greatest possibility and confidence of a win rate on the setup, but also it's got to offer me a situation where I can attack it.
And mostly, what do you look at the news? The briefing?
What's
The best part to look at the news? Which site you go for the news?
There's all kinds of news sites, really. I mean, what happens in general, when I wake up, I will, open up briefing, and I will open up various stock screeners and see what's moving in pre-market. And generally, I read every piece of news that's out there. Generally, I avoid earnings news and see what interests me. If anything stands out like a sore thumb, then I will look at what's moving. And if something that I missed, I will see why it's moving. And then I will pick 1 or 2 or 3, whatever number of stocks that morning, and I will put them on my close to watch list. If they meet all my other criteria, then I'm ready to roll. Yes.
Last question. Okay. Yeah, can we talk about your ABNR trade? If you remember that trade, that was like ABNR. That was the one that gapped up. It gapped up like 50 or 100% on FDA news. You were down like 186,000 on it. Remember?
I remember I was down, but honestly, I don't remember the trade right now, off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
So I apologize. I can talk about the GPRO that I had this past week that I was down on.
Well, I was just wondering that trade in particular. Like you were very bearish on it.
Oh yeah, I remember the trade
You
now.
flipped wrong.
I actually thought the news didn't mean too much. I thought it was, biotech sector is actually my absolute trade. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Small tech biotech stocks. If I had to pick the stock that I would prefer to trade the most, those are it. And generally, I have a very, very strong understanding of that sector and news that moves that sector. And I thought the news itself was not that bullish. I thought it was wasn't really worth that much. And also, that particular stock in the past has not really had a history of significant moves until that day. And oftentimes it has faded. It's shown good ability to fade in the past. So it was a combination of various things that I said, it was up like 1.5 or 2 points. I don't remember exactly. Early on, I started shorting, I think 2 points or whatever. And I thought it was a reasonable situation to add higher, and then it just kept holding and holding and holding. It was 11 o'clock, and I said, okay, punch. So, I mean, it's just one of those situations. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we're early.
Right. You flipped long actually.
And I flipped long, exactly. And the reason why I flipped long, was the fact that it was holding. It was 11 o'clock. It was after 11 o'clock. And it kept holding high of the day. And in particular, the market itself was weak that day. And the relative strength was standing out like a sore thumb. It was holding high of the day. Markets, tanking, just can't fall. And when something can fall and showing tremendous relative strength, chances are it's going higher in the afternoon. That's the reason why I never fight relative strength in the afternoon. I had great confidence in that particular long setup, and I took it in size. And as you saw, it rewarded me greatly. Allowed me to get 300 day and keep my